Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar from the series of Zoom at Technology webinar. My name is Barbara Chisakova, and if you have watched the previous Zoom at Technology, you might remember me from them. Because I was hosting them as well as I will be hosting this year's series. I'm glad to see a lot of people joining. If you have someone who have watched us in the previous years, please let us know in the comments. And let me get to the point of what are we going to do this year, because to be honest, this year has been crazy. We had no idea last year when we were doing the last year conference, how is everything going to change, how different this year is going to be, not only in our personal life, but in the field of business meetings as well. That's one of the reasons why we decided to give you not one, but 7 opportunities to meet with us in this year's webinar series. You have seen in the intro or on the webpage zoomattechnology.com, where you could register, or you can see what the other topics are all about, because we will take you on the journey from the source of electric energy all the way to the final customer. We will explore how we can monitor this energy or other elements, or how can you utilize this data in your decision-making process. And the journey will end with the highest demanding fields we participate in: healthcare and nuclear power. But that was all about the changes. But the concept of this year's webinar is quite similar to last year. I have 3 of my colleagues ready to tell you about today's topic, and they cannot wait to see what questions you might have on this topic. I see some of you already found where to put the questions. It's the Q&A part on the right side of your screen. You can ask any questions during the speeches. There will be a time in the second part of this webinar to answer them. But first things first, what are you going to see today? What is today's topic? Today's topic is renewable resources. They are a top current trend, and the fact that renewable resources are playing even bigger and bigger part every day in the energy mix is no secret, not to power plant managers, not to distributors, not to end customers, and not to us. I have 3 of my colleagues here with me to tell you all about the trends and all about our experience concerning renewable resources and their control. First of my colleague, sales manager Mira Koshas. Second one who will be taking you on a journey today is Marek Polak, project manager, who will tell you a little bit more about the more specific things about the renewable resources we already have experience controlling. And last but not least, Martin Hamáček, another sales manager from the power engineering group, who is currently focusing on the trends in renewable resources. Martin, before we begin, take us a little while back and tell our viewers how it all began with renewable resources.
Okay, Bara, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning or good afternoon, depending upon your local time. So let's come and take a look on the history of the power generation we have had in the past. So through the history, humans have relied most of the time on obtaining the energy for work on natural resources. The primary sources were water to drive mills or mines, and where it was possible, wind to drive windmills. Steam engine pushed the Industrial Revolution, and in 1982 there were world first hydro and first thermal power plant commissioned in the world. We learned to produce and to use electricity, and thanks to it, we have experienced a revolutionary change in society. Within a century, humanity has moved from horse carts to bullet trains, and for the first time, man-made equipment has left the Earth's atmosphere and later the borders of the solar system. All the while, humans have been increasing their demands on resources, especially the consumption of the fossil fuels such as coal, gas, and oil. However, thanks to the scientific advances, we have learned to increase the efficiency of energy production processes, and we are now on the beginning of a new era when we will be able to build even smaller and local resources that use the locally available resources to produce electricity and heat. So we are slowly returning to the principles of our ancestors who were much more connected to the place where they lived and the resources available on that place. We learned to save resources. We learned to save the energy produced, store it and use when needed. So let's take some more words from my colleague Mira Košar, who will tell you about the current situation.
Thank you, Martin. I also welcome you, everyone here. Have a good day. I would definitely like to follow Martin's words about the development in the use of energy sources. Well, if we look at this issue broadly enough, we will find out that as a humanity, we basically return to the resources we have used ever since, but today with more advanced technologies. So this trend or phenomenon, as we've called it, on the path from RES to RES, which is from renewable energy sources to renewable energy sources. So this trend or growth trend has started in recent decades and continues to the present day. And it is only a question how far we can extrapolate this trend in the future. My words should be supported by the graph you can see at this place next to me. This is a share of development of energy production from renewable sources over the last 50 years. So the graph shows the development since 1970. You can see here development for selected countries, including Czech Republic, our country, then also the European continent, and finally the light blue color represents the whole world, which is important for you to demonstrate this trend which increased in the last 10 or 15 years. Well, we called our entry changes in the structure of the energy mix or mixture in favor of RES. And these changes have influences and impacts on both companies and public. Companies such as ours, ZAP, we have to move forward and specialize for another fields of power engineering industry. And in terms of impacts for public, basically everyone can see, at least in Europe, new sources of energy such as photovoltaics panels or windmills in the landscape. And when this gradual transformation started, and what exactly caused this progression? Well, specific influences and influences are very diverse, and they range from wide technological trends to, let's call it, global political decisions. And it's definitely worth mentioning at least these basic influences or trends right in the beginning. There is in particular the policy ongoing for reducing CO2, carbon emissions and pollutants, and also there is a focus to increase energy efficiency. We are talking, for example, about the Green Deal for Europe or the Paris Agreement. Here I would like to ask Martin again for more information about this issue, and then I would follow up with other trends.
Okay, Mira, thank you. So, reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions has acquired broad support in society and also became the political issue. The key document for this is the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, signed in 1992. Within this framework, the first major initiative was the Kyoto Protocol, agreed in 1997, where 83 signatories committed themselves to reduce the greenhouse gases emissions by 5.2% up to the 2020. This document was followed in 2015 by the Paris Agreement, which addresses the situation after the 2020. This document has been already signed by 195 countries, which together produces about 97% of greenhouse gases emission. Until 1990, the growth in the greenhouse gas emission correlated with the growth in the global GDP. Subsequently, the greenhouse gas emissions began to decline while economic growth continued to grow. Together with the mentioned documents based on the UN framework, there is another document which has been already mentioned by Mira, and it's the Green Deal for the Europe, which is a set of the measures to support the economy, which, among the other things, aim to achieve a carbon neutrality in Europe by 2050. However, the trend of the favoring of production of energy from renewable resources is not limited just to the Europe. At the present, the China and Asia-Pacific region clearly dominate in this area. With regards to conditions in the other parts of the world, the further growth can be expected as well in, for example, Africa, the Middle East, South America. So this I would like to give a word to Mira to explain us more about the energy and the greenhouse gases production.
Thank you, Martin. Well, as I promised, I will follow up the list of another trends that have huge impact on energetic or power engineering. One of which is definitely development of information and communication technologies. And this is another huge topic you can maybe hear more about during the entry of my colleagues next week, namely next week, 25th in 25th of February, and it's called From Technicians to Manager, thanks to clearly visualized data. So I hereby invite you to that. But to return to trends, others are new manufacturing processes, both in terms of new material that are used and the production process itself. A very lucrative topic is, for example, 3D printing. Another great driving force is already mentioned decarbonization, which is the process of reducing carbon emissions. And as we are talking from Europe, from Czechia, it's worth to note that this issue is closely connected to so-called coal phase-out. That is simply, in simple words, that is a shift away from coal and its usage. You can see color-marked countries I will start with the orange one. Those countries already have a date that is set when they exactly will end their coal power plants, which you can see there are most of them. Then there is category in which we are also, Czechia and Slovenia, by red color, and those countries are searching for a specific date by now. And last worth to mention category is the purple ones, countries there they didn't find the term yet and they are not willing to. But anyways, this is just about the trend as a whole, and European continent will definitely will go through this coal phase out process. That's for sure. Back to trends. Definitely there is also decentralization ongoing in energetics, power engineering. In fact, it's some kind of reasonable searching for relationship or balance between smaller local sources and the larger ones. Decentralization has certainly impact on the energy mixture as well. When we can expect the selected renewable resources that they will find their application in selected localities, given localities regarding geographical conditions or political opinions, of course, but the increase is definitely there in the future. And thanks to this, we will have to face another challenge, and that is flexible energy system among the network of distribution energy. So this is another driving force that we have to face and challenge. And last but not least, there is also an accumulation of energy, which is closely connected to these topics. Of course, we will have to learn much better to accumulate energy, especially in the Europe, where we perceive this growth of renewable resources that are simply not stable, that works when the wind blows. Let's make this example in simple words. Wind blows, energy works, sun shines, energy works, and otherwise not. So these are the challenges. Then we will definitely expect another technologies that are being developed right now or are unknown to us, and we will be very glad if you can tell us or ask us or inform us about these trends we don't know and we would like to participate in. Please use the chat in the Microsoft Teams. We will be glad to react or answer or just get to know. And now to the energy mixture itself. In this very simplified graph, you can see development of low carbon sources and the fossil fuels in the last 50 years, again since 1970. As you can see, there is a growth since then from 6% to the current 16% of share, which is quite something, but we expect to grow it even more. And this is for the whole world. So you can imagine just Europe, there is also a third proportion or share of renewable sources. Yeah, so I must say I wanted to give you some prognosis about each individual source, but I decided to show you this graph of development of demand for fossil fuels. You can see not just we of course follow the valid data and prognosis, and in fact there is this decrease of fossil fuels demand in decrease of fossil fuels that's inevitable, and it only brings up the question, how can we fill the missing fossil fuels? Obviously, there will be a big question mark for the renewable sources. I will be more specific. You can see a divided graph into 3 parts. The brown color is coal, which already had its peak in the year 2014, and then we can expect for oil that peak of demand will be hit in the year 2029, and gas seems to be as a most perspective source from fossil fuels, but even that one will decrease over time. So we are talking about few or maybe several years ahead, and there's not much time. There are still enough fossil fuels, of course, in the world, but this is about the demand. So we expect basically there will be a huge decrease. So those are challenges we are facing, and we expect the resources RES to arise. Yeah, that is what it's about. Okay, I will end the part here.
Thank you, Mira, and thank you, Marcin, as well. I hope my sound is better. Hopefully, you can hear me clearly. And I would like to thank my colleagues to introducing you into the world of renewable resources. And now to get to the parts that are more specific, Mira will continue with talking about specific renewable resource types of different power plants, and my colleague Marek will tell you more about our experience in these fields. I would like to remind you that you could ask our speakers any questions you might have about this part or about the things my colleagues will be talking later about. So if you do have anything in mind, don't hesitate. We have a lot of time at the end of the presentation to answer all the questions. And Mira, let's go back to you.
I will be more brief now. Hydro energy has a vital place among renewable sources of energy. It's mostly widespread. It consists of half of the renewable sources in terms of installed capacity. And even from the point of view of that, we have most references and competencies in this field. Worldwide installed capacity is over 1,300 gigawatts, which represents about 18% of the total installed capacity for energy production in the world. As for the potential of new construction of hydropower plants, it must be acknowledged that the main focus is not in Europe anymore, but rather on East Asia and the Pacific region, also South America. Now briefly for the advantages and disadvantages. This definitely the possibility of mentioned accumulation of energy in pumped storage hydropower plants. And then it is also the ability to quickly power supply energetic network, thanks to which it is possible to cover energetic peaks in terms of higher demand for energy. Also, the operation itself of hydropower plants requires only minimal and often remote operation, especially if they use our control systems and other sub-products. Something about disadvantages, definitely higher realization cost compared to other RES, and also it depends on stable water flow. Of course, there is also a risk of an accident when the dam breaks. It can happen. Reference topic, well, in terms of regarding that experience in this field, as I mentioned, it's rather big. I would like to ask Mark, as my colleague, would inform you more about, especially we will start with project at Kapčíkovo power plant. So please, Mark.
Thank you, Mira. Hello, everyone. As a part of that activities in energy sector, we participating on construction of new and reconstruction of the existing sources. At the end of last year, we replaced turbine control and excitation control at a hydropower plant in Gabčíkovo. There has been used a new developed compact controller for turbine control, which, thanks to the structure of the software, which is prepared as parameterized, it makes possible to shorten the implementation time and also make it easy for servicing and during operation. Another project which I want to point out is hydropower plant Lipno, where we supply a new control system and also electrical part. There has been used principle of cybersecurity, and regarding that is now operated without any personnel at place, and is controlled remotely. For control and regulation, we have at our disposal ready-made solutions which are based on compacts, as a turbine controller, automatic voltage regulator, synchronizer, etc. And at the same time, we are ready to meet various specific customer requirements, because that, as a manufacturer of own control system, we can provide feedback during defining of algorithm, and also we have the ability intervene in the software up to the source code level, and we have the possibility to modify or develop new hardware according any specific requirements. And this is that advantage in comparison with integrators of various technical means.
Thank you, Mark, for this very good addition. And I will continue with another source, which are biogas stations or biogas power plants, doesn't matter. Although biogas has already experienced its, let's call it, boom 10 or more years ago in Czechia, we can expect another growth of this renewable source anyways. So far, biogas stations has been processed in a cogeneration unit for the production of heat and electricity, of course. But today, this field experiences a great change. It is the conversion of biogas into biomethane, namely its purification, and then biomethane can be pushed into the natural gas lines. It can also be used, of course, as a fuel for vehicles, for example, in public transportation. Now again, just briefly about the advantages and disadvantages. The main advantage is that there is a continuity of production due to biomass supply, and also it's in accordance with the trend of recovery or recycling of waste or bio-waste. Another advantage is that the waste product is a quality fertilizer, and overall biogas plants makes ecological and economic sense. From the perspective of that and competencies in this field, well, that provides complex supplies of control systems for the operation of biogas plants, and we can also provide remote diagnosis of and data analysis. that can be, of course, used to improve the efficiency of the operation. So that's it for this source of energy. And I ask Martin now.
Okay, thank you. So those were, say, a bit common resources. So come and take a look on a bit exotic resource, and I'm talking about the geothermal power energy. It's a result of the energy, of the thermal energy of the heat of the Earth core, and we can see demonstration of this energy all around the world in, for example, like in forms of the hot springs, steam outbursts, or in volcano activities. However, this energy is available all over the world. However, not all the locations has the economic potential. So depending on the local conditions, we can use the energy from the earth either for heating or production of electricity, or combine them which is the most common application actually. The types of the geothermal power plants are three in the basic. The first is a dry steam type, which uses directly the steam formed in the earth and use it for turning the steam turbine. This is one of the most common application. However, this is also the most demanding in terms of location, and it can be built really on some special places which are very active in the terms of the seismical and tectonic activity. However, this was also the first geothermal power plant which was built and commissioned in the world, and it was in 1904 in Italy, in Tuscany. This type, as I mentioned, takes the steam which is directly formed in the earth. However, the other types are using the pumping of some medium into the ground, into the earth, and where it is heated. The first is a flash steam, where we use the water for getting the steam, and the other type is a binary power plant, which use sort of the organic liquids like propane, isobutane, or freon, where these substances has the lower point of the boiling, and use them to turning the steam turbine. As I mentioned, this technology is available all around, practically all around of us. However, not with all the economical potential. In the place where we can build these power plants, we get the advantage of the really lasting technology, because this type of sources is almost undepletable and almost infinite resource of the power. However, the disadvantage I mentioned is that we are facing issues with the finding locations. Today, we are talking mainly about Indonesia, Philippines, United States of America, Canada, and in the Europe, Italy and Iceland. The advantage brought to us with geothermal energy is the stable output. It does not suffer on some dramatic changes within the year or within the day, as we can face, for example, with the wind power. That's another topic I would like to talk about, and it's practically one of the most common sources of the renewable energy. However, it has some disadvantages, of course. Today, I'm talking about the year up to 2019, there was around 650 gigawatts installed all around the world. where it's supposed to be another 380 gigawatts installed in the next 4 years. Just for your information, it will be more than 1,000 gigawatts, which is 5 times as much as for example, Germany has installed the capacity in in all their power plants. Disadvantage I mentioned, it's the volatility of production when the output can significantly change within a day, even within an hour. So this is one of the challenges the renewable resources are facing, and it's very interesting to see how the people and the scientists are coping with this sort of challenge and the technologies they are developing. One of the most perspective technology, especially in my opinion, is that this type of power plants, especially the wind farms, can be coupled with the facility producing the hydrogen, and hydrogen can be either stored or used for power generation. Or we can couple energy industry with the gas industry, and hydrogen can be mixed with the natural gas in the pipes, and can be used in some other industries, like in automotive, in heavy industries, etc., which are considered to be the industries which is hard to decarbonize. So this may be the way how to achieve the carbon neutrality, as mentioned in Green Deal for Europe agreement I mentioned before. So this is regarding the hydrogen and other technologies I want to mention, and I would like to ask Mira to follow up.
Thank you, Martin. I definitely will. And I will follow up with solar energy. And in solar energy, as you can see this graphic, most people think of photovoltaic panels. And of course, it makes perfect sense because solar photovoltaic energy still dominates in terms of share among solar power engineering. But this field has a huge potential due to other technologies in this field as well. These are, for example, here we go with this graphic, concentrated solar power plants. And in this example, there is even a tower, which use the principle of concentrating solar radiation to one point. This can be further divided into other specific types, but the division itself is not so important now. But to the potential, when we focus on the energy source itself, it exceeds our energy needs many times. In addition, we do not have to negotiate its supply source with the supplier of the input source. It's the sun, of course, I'm talking about. So it's only up to us how we can utilize this source. And even professional forecasts cannot agree on how important the position of solar sources will be within RES. For example, estimation intervals range from 6 to 26% of the use of solar energy in renewable energy production in 2040, which is a huge range. How important is solar energy in the energy mix? We will see, but we see at least a big potential to develop another technologies, not just concentrated solar power plants or photovoltaic panels. True is, after all, the sun is not always available, and it's rather unstable source of energy. It's simple, if the sun is not shining, we don't produce energy. Or do we? Is that really so? Here, I would like to ask again, colleague Mark, to enter this topic. So please, Mark.
Thank you, Mira. It is true that the use of solar energy is the hallmark of instability. However, it's not might be always the true. in the vast solar project which we participate in, we can produce electricity even if the sun is behind the cloud, and is only thanks to the technology arrangement. The solar energy captured in the heat transfer medium, which is sodium used here, is accumulated in the tank, and from this tank is taking and evenly converted into electricity. There is great potential in RES, and will be used with the new technology which will of course come. We are ready as ZAT to implement our solution for management and control of already known and proven technologies, and at the same time we are ready and we will be happy to participate in developing and creating new and innovative technologies in this field. I would like to thank you, and I will pass it Bara to open the discussion. Bara.
Thank you, Marek. Thank all of you for your thoughts and insights on the RES topic. I can see some of our viewers are already asking questions, and as you can see, you can also just give a like, a thumb up to a question, so that I know that it is a question you are interested in the most. If you have any more questions, don't hesitate to ask them. We have enough time to answer all of them. So the first question, one that interested some fellow viewers of the author of the question, is you have talked about hydropower as a key source. What about the European Union and construction of hydropower plants? Mira, as you were the one talking about hydropower plants, could you answer the question for our viewers?
Yes, I hope I can, and I will try. I slightly talked about it already, that the core of new construction of hydropower plants doesn't lay in Europe, but in other parts of the world, especially in the East Asia and Pacific region, as I told. In Europe, there is already the hydropower plant infrastructure built, and there we expect basically modernization of control systems and so on. But the new construction, we don't expect to grow potentially. We know that hydropower plants have for sure stability across the world, and they will not be dismissed. I mean, they will stay, maybe slightly increase in terms of installed capacity. If I look closely just to Czechia, for example, we see potential only for the small power plants, very low installed capacity, but we don't expect any huge projects in Czechia especially, and also in Europe. That's just the answer. But the share of hydropower plant will be still the same, maybe slightly higher.
Thank you
for the question.
I hope Mira answered everything you wanted to hear. If he didn't, or if you have any other topic you would like to talk about with our speakers, do not hesitate to ask. And now to the next question. Our viewers would like to know whether there are any issues whether there are any issues with the further development of RES that we face nowadays. Martin, could you answer this one, please?
Okay, thank you for this question. So basically, there are few issues which the further development of renewable resources is facing. The first of all, it's the demands on location, and especially depending upon the source of the energy. Not all the technologies are suitable to be used almost anywhere. The other thing is the efficiency. We need to keep in mind that the development in the field of renewable resources is there not as long as we have, for example, for the steam engine. For the most of these technologies, we are still in the beginning, and the further development is especially in the terms of increasing the efficiency. And last and not least is how to utilize the energy, because not all these resources are producing the stable output, and we need to store the energy and save it for the later use. So this is one, in my opinion, one of the biggest challenges we need to keep in mind for the renewable resources.
Thank you, Martin, for the answer. As the time is nearing up, and I can see that probably my colleagues were thorough enough with their speeches to not leave room for any questions. We only have just the last one, so if you want to know anything, if you want to ask something, do not hesitate, because later on we can only answer you in writing. So for the possibly last question of today's webinar, what is the real potential of renewable resources in the Czech Republic and in the European Union? Mark, can you give us your thoughts on this question?
Okay, I think the potential is much higher than is our consumption. So it depends only on the technology which we already don't know and we are not having in our hands. As the technology will come, we are ready.
Thank you, Mark. So I don't see any more questions here, and our time is coming up anyway. So this will be the end of the first webinar of the Zoom at Technology series of 2021. I really hope I will see you all at the next one as well, that takes part just next Thursday, again at 2:30 p.m. If you are not registered yet, do not hesitate. Just go to the www.zoomattechnology.com. You can register there, and also if you missed the beginning of this webinar, or if you had to skip a part, there will be a recording available for you. I think by this time tomorrow it should be there. So do not hesitate to look there. If you think about any question that you didn't think of during today's webinar, you can contact us as Zat on LinkedIn, or you can contact our speakers directly through their profiles, or you can just look at our website for the contact information and write us an email. We hope to hear from you, and I cannot wait to see you next Thursday at the same time with the next topic. So have a nice afternoon, and let's Zoom again on Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.